Okay, the next part of our lesson is to put something in terms of from standard form into our form of our conic, in this case a circle. So I would definitely take note of the things over here on the right side, because these are steps that you're going to want to be familiar with. In general, we're going to want to put the x's and the y's together and move the constant to the other side. If there's any coefficient in front of your x squared or y squared terms, you want to divide by that. And then we're doing this completing the square. So whether you use the b divided by 2 squared, or you remember how you do the box and you figure out what number completes it, you're going to have to know that a lot for this unit on conics. So I'm going to put my x squared and my -6 together. I'm going to put my y squared and 8 together. And I'm going to move the 16 to the other side so I get it equals -16. Okay, so this is the part where you have to figure out what number will complete each of these trinomials. So if I do -6 squared divided by 2, that's 3, plus 3 squared is 9, so I'm going to add 9. I'm going to put it over here on the left just for organization. But then if I do something to the left side of the equation to keep things balanced, I also have to do to the right. Okay, let's do the same with the 8. So 8 divided by 2 is 4 squared is 16. If I do it to the left, I also have to do it to the right. At this stage, you've got it in the form where we're going to factor these trinomials, and they should factor to what we call perfect squares, so meaning like it's x plus or x minus something squared. So what multiplies to 9 and adds to 6? That's -3 and -3, so x minus 3 squared. For the record, notice -6 divided by 2 over here on the left is -3 as well. Plus, what multiplies to 16 and adds to 8, that's 4 and 4, so we get y plus 4 squared equals on this side 9. So if you want to think about the center, it's now in the equation we're used to. The center is 3, comma -4, the opposite of what's inside the parentheses, and the radius is the square root of 9, which is equal to 3. Okay, we're going to practice this a few different times, so let's take a look at the next one. In this one, I'm going to start off the same way that we did before, and I'm going to get my x's together and my y's together. The constant is already on the other side. Notice this one's a little bit trickier than the last one because there's some numbers in front of the squared terms. So your trick here is notice how there's a 3 and a 3. With a circle, those numbers will always be the same. So we're going to divide both sides of the equation by that coefficient. So therefore, I'm left with x squared plus 2x plus y squared plus 6y equals a -9. Now you go back to completing your square again, so we've got to figure out what numbers go in those blanks. 2 divided by 2 is 1 squared is plus 1. Whatever you do to the left, also do to the right. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 3 squared is 9. Whatever you do to the left, also do to the right. Now go ahead and follow what we did above. We're going to do our grouping. So how do this first trinomial factors? 1 multiplies to 1 and adds to 2. Well, that's 1 and 1, so x plus 1 squared. Plus what multiplies to 9 and adds to 6, that's y plus 3 squared, equals 1. So therefore, your center is at -1 and -3, and your radius is the square root of 1, which is equal to 1. Okay, one last example. Let's follow through. So, get your x's and your y's together. And we're going to move the -10 to the other side, so it's a +10 now. Notice we've got a 2 and a 2 in front of x squared and y squared, so we're going to divide everything by 2. And we get x squared minus 2x plus y squared plus 2y equals 5. So you're now finding the number that completes both these squares. So -2 divided by 2 is -1, squared is a +1. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other. And same thing here, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and then squared is 1. So, as we go ahead and factor, we get x minus 1 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 7. So here your center is at 1, negative 1, and your radius is the square root of 7. Okay. This last one I just think is a fun application to like what you studied a lot last year, another way to think about the unit circle. So if you want to pause it and just work on your homework, that's fine, but if not, here we go. So the unit circle is centered at 0, 0. And since it is the unit circle, the radius is 1, right? So we'd have the equation x squared plus y squared equals 1. If you wanted to think about anything that has the x coordinate of a half, we're plugging in a half for x, and then we're solving for y. So this would give you a half squared is a quarter, plus y squared equals 1. So we get y squared, if I subtract 1 minus a quarter, right? That would cancel, and if I subtract a quarter over here, I get 3/4. So now, to solve for y, I take the square root. So we get y equals plus or minus, because there are going to be 2 different answers. And I can rewrite that as the square root of 3 over the square root of 4. So we get plus or minus the square root of 3, and the square root of 4 is 2. So therefore, we know there's 2 separate points. There's a half, comma, square root of 3 over 2. And there's also a half, and then negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay, now for real, go ahead and